Hi, this is Mike Rataj from Bold Brain Creative, Bold Brain Gallery. What's this? Did I do that whole thing out of focus? Today I just interviewed Miss Led, Joanna Henly, out of the UK. She just put out this book and the other one, which is the portrait drawing. So follow along for the entire talk between Joanna, her career as an artist. The three things I would take away is continue to be active, find your art community, and you do need to believe in yourself. So find your support system, whether it's a friend, whether it's family that can believe in you. But either way, surround yourself with those people that are going to push you, and make sure you're pushing yourself into new things and the people that support you. So I think this was a fascinating interview, but thank you very much, Joanna.
Hi, thank you.
Hi.
So my general audience is mostly artists. I got involved with just sort of sharing artwork, and then lately I'm kind of trying to get involved with more people like you that are doing multiple streams of things to make the artist life work. How I gather this, it seemed like you were doing a lot more. You can hear me okay, right?
Yeah. Crystal clear.
It sounded like you were doing a lot more workshops, like in real life, and a lot of like just in-person events for years before you finally put up.
I have been. Right? Yeah.
I guess
that was my background before I started. I'm just going to get the book too, so that would make sense. Oh, I've got a copy here too. They're all over the place.
It's good though.
Okay.
So what was the I think the biggest thing for my one question is like the 0 to 1. So like you're clearly an artist, like you're doing your craft. How did you, what was the first sort of step? Like manager, just first gig, and then it built from there?
Okay. Well, it's quite nice how the book kind of merged those two worlds. So I've always been an artist. I knew that I wanted to be an artist since I can't remember, since before I can remember. So maybe 3 or something. And I continued with the support of my parents to go through academia and create work and learn how to be, I guess not learn how to be an artist, just learn how to draw, because I didn't really know what that meant at that time, and not many people do. So I continued through school, and then I went to art school, and then I went to university. So I carried through illustration and figure drawing and portraiture and people, and figure drawing were my favorite thing. That's what I was drawn to. I tried lots of different things, but then I came back. So that there was always that stronghold there. That was always something that was really significant, and I was really confident in doing, just because I had that interest. So it was about me just continually doing it, and I was addicted to it. So that's why I became quite good at it, because with anything, it's just about the work you put in. So after art college, I'm trying lots of different things out. I went and did a degree, and I didn't work at that point. I was doing a fine art degree, so I was looking at painting. So still, again, kind of using my themes of portraiture and figure drawing and people and movement and fabric and clothing. I did that, but I started learning how to use like new media. So pastels, paints, lots of painting, lots of oil painting work. I learned how to work big, because when you're in school, sometimes it's a lot smaller. So when I came out of fine art and doing a degree, that was really tough, coming out with like a degree that was just art based. that was really tough, because it was like, well, what am I going to do now? I've got no background. I haven't shown with artists. I haven't like exhibited. How do I make my money? And that was like a really, really tough time for me. So, so I entered lots of awards, and I was hoping that things would just stick, but things were really tricky. So I did sort of like lots of other different jobs. I was so bored. I wasn't able to do what I did, which was like create every day. I'd make books. I'd sketch. Even like when I was tiny, my mum still had all these books that I used to make, and cartoons, and it was an addiction. And then all of a sudden I had to stop what I was doing and do like a normal job. Do like you know, but the thing is, I didn't have any like interesting job skills, so I did sort of office-based stuff, like reception stuff, things that I could just pick up.
Right.
So that kind of went on for a while, and I didn't, you know, like people used to say to me, what you do? And I was like, well, I wanted to be an artist, but I have to work, I need to eat. And I was living in London, so, you know, the city isn't paved with gold.
Yeah.
So that went on, and I was constantly searching for something that I would find something that would find me, that would kind of take me out of this kind of rut. I was really happy. I found a course, which meant, because I got really, really low, actually. It got to like a good few years, and I was very unhappy. And I was like, well, what can I do? So I found a course in a magazine, and it was called a public art course. And you know, fast tracking a little bit forward, I was able to combine the two things that I really love: people, working with people, and I'd done a little bit of teaching, you know, from my school work experience when I was growing up, even when I was 15, and I could combine drawing in community settings. So that's where my workshop experience came from. So I was doing that, like, I think it was, how many years? So it was 5 years after I graduated, actually. Mm-hmm. So it was a really good space of time, and I'd kind of given up drawing, and I just thought, well, this isn't working. It's not worked for me. It's too hard. And I was very, very sad. So through working with other people was amazing, because I worked with people that I didn't feel like I had the experience to work with. People with severe learning difficulties and physical difficulties. And it was a time that was quite magical, because I was able to give something to them, but they gave me so much more back. So that's where the teaching came from. And through working in this way and working with these people, something happened. My confidence came back, my happiness came back, and all of a sudden I wanted, my creativity came back. And I think, you know, that I had to create my environment that could support that.
Right.
And that's really important. I think that's really tough. I hear so many people say, well, I don't have the time to do it, and I really want to do this, but I think you have to like find the environment to make, because you have to be in a good space. You know, you could do like really crazy work when you're sad, and I used to do like really dark, expressive work when I was in like a bad mood, but when you're happy, you know, you're in a good space. So I taught for a few years, and because I'd picked up this experience, which I always say to people is so important, because you've got a gift, you know, you've got that gift of creativity, and it's a good way of making money, but it's also a good way of kind of, what was good for me was I was able to step out of my art world. I was able to sort of step out of the ego. I was able to look at art as something that was important to enable people. So it allowed me to step into a world that wasn't about me and about, oh, I did this wrong, or this doesn't look right. It was about how I can share something that's kind of almost primal, you know, something that's so natural, and just learning how to work with people in really kind of different ways, and being really sensitive. So that started to allow me to have a few days where I could start working again, and I got really excited about doing portraiture. And I guess through social media, it really, really kind of went like overnight. Was amazing. I started contacting people on social media because MySpace had kind of had this kind of crazy boom.
Right.
And there were so many really interesting people, and all of a sudden I had all these incredible subjects and these amazing models, and I started contacting people, and I did my first sort of conceptual portraiture project, which I talked about on Instagram last month. And I look back at it and I'm like, oh wow, this is still kind of relevant, and this is kind of really cool, and it's really colorful. And I remember when that environment was right, and when I was happy, I had this sense of, you know, I had all these kind of helping hands kind of bringing it together, and it just kind of, the work kind of just glided in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And through that, I just used social media, and I posted. I made sure that every piece that I did was in every city of the world, because, you know, you could put your HTML in people's profiles on MySpace. I kept posting and posting and making sure. Sometimes I'd spend like 3 or 4 hours just making sure that post went out, and then more people saw it. And it was a time when social media was very, very different. Like we're talking 10 years ago or 12 years ago. It was very different. You know, people weren't using it to market themselves. It was about artist communities and musicians, and you know, I still meet people and go, oh, you're that, and you remember people from their handle, and you're like, no way. And I work with a photographer, and she does loads of stuff for Vice and ID, and I was like, oh, you're that girl. And she's like, yeah. And she's like, I used to follow you, and we're talking like years ago. It was like massive. So that really helped, and it allowed me to access people and communities. And I did it's a long story, actually. I just wanted to, now that I'd started putting my work out, and it was more about, I just wanted to prove to myself that I could do it, and putting it on MySpace allowed me the space for people to go, this is really great. I started getting interviews. I got a lot of interviews and a few exhibitions in the US. And that was really great. And the more, you know, positive impact I was getting, the more my kind of belly was fluffing up, and it was really, really like, I was like, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, and I'm like really empowered. So I started kind of, you know, raising the bar, and I found out about a live street art tournament, and that's a really long story as well, but it was a global tournament, and I knew about it through some friends, because I had a lot of people working in performance, and I thought, well, I can maybe live paint, because loads of people in London will be there, and I don't have an agent, and I want to be seen. And the guys that were running it, they said, oh, you shouldn't enter, because no girls enter, and you know, they come, but then they either go or they don't turn up, and that kind of made me want to do it more.
Good.
So I said, well, I'm going to do it, and then if I even if I just turn up, I've won in a way.
Right.
And it was like a football tournament. It was like really, you know, it was like hip hop football tournament. It was like full on, full power testosterone, and it was 16-8, and these were live rounds, so it was like 4 hours live painting, and I hadn't done anything like it before, and it was like 16-8 to 4 to 2 to 1, and we had to do all these huge panels, and it was amazing, and I ended up winning. And it was such a amazing platform, and things just it was just everything that I did. I kind of had my own kind of like verbal and visual portfolio, and I just talked. I was so excited, and I think that really helped, and social media helped. And my first job was with Diesel, and I did a project for Reebok, and things went from there. But I think social media was great. The climate was good, but what I realized that that really distinctively made a difference between myself and other artists and my art friends was that I think maybe because I was a bit older, I don't know, but I was at that time, I was like, it's do or die. And I had a kind of really fierce attitude. For example, I wanted to be represented by one agent, and I messaged them like every few months for like 2 years, and I kept sending them more work and more work. And I know that it's hard when you're an artist because you're so connected, your identity and your emotions and your whole person is connected to what you do and what you produce, and it's really hard when you get knockbacks.
Right.
I think because I was so active and I was so happy to be working or feeling like an artist again, it was just like, okay, well, I set myself up to put, it's like, when you do a job offer, I kept saying to people at the time, it's like, you don't just apply for one, you apply for 16 and then, one will come. So I made sure that I was super busy. And I think, and I know that's why I've worked in so many ways. So I learned how to do mural art, and I learned how to do textile stuff, and I learned how to do packaging and workshops, so that when one thing was quiet, there was something else that could happen. And for the first 10 years, I was just catching all the balls, and spinning all the plates, which was really, really stressful. And I definitely don't want to do that anymore. I want to chill down a bit. but I think that's my what did you call it? A 0 to 1?
0 to 1, yeah.
0 to 1, yeah. And then I got the agent, and I kept the contacts, and I had my feet. Had one foot in street art, the other foot in kind of fashion illustration, which were two like really big kind of genres and fields at that time. So that was really good, and that really helped. And I've made a lot of contacts along the way, and been part of communities which were really important.
That's it. So and that's kind of what I've noticed. You've really just been able to connect with people the entire time. And then they do things, they think of you, they reach out, and then it's that snowballs. Yeah. You mentioned it, and you said Diesel was the first big. Was that? Yeah. Did you reach out to them, or was that kind of someone through the?
That was through community, actually. So that was through. So if I rewind a little. The live art tournament that I won, was my first example of like, oh my gosh, I can actually do this.
Right.
So, and that happened because I knew a friend that was running the event where that event was happening. So it was like a festival, it was a design festival, and my friend was setting up the sound system. So it's about who you know too. Yes. So it was it was me going back to MySpace after winning Secret Wars, the tournament, and going, right, okay, I need to find more people. I want to do this. It's addictive. It was like, I felt so high. It was just the best feeling ever. It's like, I want to do that more. So I looked on MySpace and I found a collective in the north of England, in Manchester, and they were doing live drawing events. So they were linked to another collective, and it was through them that I did the Diesel through Reebok. So at that time I wasn't outreaching to like big brands. I was basically outreaching to collectives that had links to big brands. So that was really helpful. So I could be part of their unit.
Right.
And for the Diesel one, it was a big UK campaign, which was an ad campaign which was called Diesel Walls. I think they had it in Barcelona as well, and a few other places in Europe. So you win the prize is to paint a really significant building in a different European city.
Oh, cool.
To advertise it, they wanted smaller, up and coming artists to paint the walls in their stores, and then so it kind of, yeah. And then for Reebok, it was an ad campaign thing as well, and that was to do with live painting as well, and that happened in Barcelona for a bread and butter event, which is again like a big, it's like a big retail festival. They had it's super cool. They had the Hives play, and so Barcelona is so good for their live festivals, but they have like all the big brands there, like Box Fresh and Adidas, Nike, and they all have like a big stand. And with Reeboks, they had like our collective doing live painting. So I got to do the tournament. The guy phoned me up and said, okay, we know you won the tournament, but will you do it again? I said, I'm not doing it again. Once is enough. And I didn't want to lose, I was like, oh my God, I put myself through so much pain.
On top
I made it look like I was freestyling, you see, but I practiced a lot. I said, no, I'm not doing it again. He goes, what if it's in Barcelona? I was like, okay. And I won both battles there. I was like, brilliant. So that was cool. So that was the Reebok one. And then I got a big, I don't know if you have it there, Lynx. It's like a deodorant. It's like a huge brand here.
Oh.
And they wanted to open it up. It's normally for like guys. It's like Sure deodorant. It's a bit like that, but they've got like a bit of like a cool-ish brand, and they wanted to open that up. So that was from those two gigs, I got to do my own, and I got to art direct it, and that was amazing. And it's still one of my favorite projects. And I worked with some people that I'd met through the street art collective that were doing the films, and I was like, oh, I'm doing this project, come and video me. We'll do like a time lapse of me painting this huge canvas for 12 hours. We'll do some and again, these were ideas that were coming because I'd had all those other experiences. I had like all this big confidence because, I kept saying to people, it's not about you've either got it or you don't. It's about all those steps that allow you to get there. It's not about that moment. I was at my high point of creativity because my mind was like my belly was on fire, and it was a good time. I think it's really daunting when I see people at my studio in London, and I'm like, oh, you should art direct this and do this, and it's like, they're on their own journey, that might happen, or they might have something else. So it's all very it's all very individual. Yeah, definitely.
I think you mentioned it too, being older at the certain point to do and die, and I think that was like my background. I was a financial person. So I was a film.
Okay, cool.
I was a film guy for college, and then I left to be a financial guy, and then I realized I'm done, and then like switching to just a creative life where it's just like you see the alternative. So now you have to go for what you really want because. And
you've been waiting for so long, and you're like, right, I've got it, and you've like had all these ideas, and you just put it into action, and it's like boom, boom. Yeah. So it's a mix. It's about being a bit older. It's about having to like do the jobs that didn't satisfy you, like you're saying, and it's also about, I think a lot of students feel, especially with Instagram and the way the internet is now, they feel like they have to have be at the same level as people that have been working for a really long time and are replicating styles and not finding their own. And I think that's destructive in time. And I think having that break having that break to just have life stuff
Right.
is really important. You know, I did a long time in academia, and then I had to stop. But and I did other stuff, and I used my art in different ways. It didn't just serve me. I really saw it as, and that's what the book's about. You know, is like, you know, giving back and seeing my art as a service, not just something that I just do in my room.
Right.
You know, and those are the best DJs. Those are the best,
Right.
you know, people are the people that know their audience and know what they can give, and are sensitive to that. And that's what I love about doing all these different kind of arts. You know, when I'm doing editorial, I'm working to a different audience, whether it's a different magazine or if it's a different book and where it's published, or whether it's a mural and who uses that space, and whether it's in a school or whether it's on a public building, and the people that I'm working with, the themes, all of these things are always different, and that keeps it really fresh for me. So it takes me out of it a bit. You know, obviously I'm delivering it, but it allows it to be kind of like a new idea.
A bigger purpose.
A bigger purpose, exactly.
And I think when you first said that with the workshops, because it goes from the individual doing the thing to community.
Yes.
And like once you kind of involve the community, and that from the story, it sounds like that's been the success. Just like not being the person in your room and like hiding from everyone, but really getting out, knowing people and sharing. And that's key. That seems to be
it's really key. It's really key. And that's really nice, because it's so funny. I saw an artist who I like a lot and I really look up to. And I first met her when she did a talk, and she said, "Oh, I get to talk about me. That's my favorite subject." And so many people couldn't get away with that, you know. And she was just, I really identified with her, because, you know, I love what I do so much. I love talking about what I do. It makes me happy, and I can, you know, share that, and it validates that, and it makes me excited. And I think the more you do that, the more you hone what how you present it, how you present yourself. And you are, you know, it is hard to emotionally, like I was saying earlier, and you know, separate yourself from your work. You're part of the package. You're leading the package. You are packaging the package,
right.
And that's so important. And the more you talk to people on the street, and the more you share your work, the more it kind of opens up, and then all of a sudden you can talk about it to clients, or you to people that you're teaching, you know. And it's really nice to be able to have, I think, you know, gosh, my like pretty much like 15-16 years experience teaching now, and that's great. You know, and when I started workshop teaching with people with disabilities, I was just in a room with 20 people, and I didn't know how to work with them, because I didn't have the chance to introduce myself, because that's just the way the setting, the environment was. So I had to learn. So it was like, well, this person can't touch stuff, and this person is quite sensitive to noise, and this person cannot draw and needs a carer, and things like that. And it, you know, I started with like really big challenges, and I kind of want to continue that way, just because that's my relationship with it, I suppose.
Right.
And working with people comes with so many unknown dynamics.
Yeah.
But I do love working with people that have that I can enable, shall we say. And I love working with children, because they're just so much fun. You know, like especially when I'm live painting. I ended up live painting for a first birthday for the royal family in Bahrain, which was crazy. And these children were hilarious. I was trying to draw them, and they were hiding behind my board, and we were just playing a game of freeze. And I was like, okay, so now you have to freeze. And, you know, and it's just like, you just don't know what's going to happen next. And I love that. I get very complacent. I get too comfortable when I sit in my room. Mm-hmm. I like it. It's cozy. I get tea on tap. I've got the cat. It's great.
Yeah.
I think like the magic happens when I'm outside.
Yeah.
So I definitely spent way too much time in the studio for this, but it was worth it. No more books for a while.
Well, yeah, exactly. Because now you can use this to share. You know.
Yeah, exactly.
Get inside time, but now you can actually speak about it, and you kind of have. So it was this book, and then the first one. What was the time? It was like a year between the two.
No, I did them both at the same time.
Oh, you did? Oh, so it was like a wow.
Yes, yes, and another book, but we don't talk about that.
Gotcha. Noted.
It was a lot going on. Yeah.
Yeah. So
but just these two books we're going to talk about. Yeah.
Okay.
It was supposed to be a 6-month project, but it was a good year.
Wow.
Yeah.
And the only reason it happened is, like you said, the 14, 15 years of leading up to that. You just kind of distilled it all.
I think so. I didn't actually ask the guys at Rockport. I should ask them. I normally ask clients, but Rockport got in touch and said that they would really like me to pitch for doing the book, and that there was an opportunity to do a second book. And I said, I'll do both. It was a really good time for me because I was leaving my agent, and this was like something that I'd always been interested in, and living the life of an author. So that was definitely something that was the perfect time. With teaching though, obviously I'd done like many years of teaching, and I've got some stuff on YouTube, not that much, but I've got some stuff, and I brought out a video in 2016, I believe, and that was a 2-hour long misled fashion illustration video. So I think, again, it was all leading up towards the books.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been live drawing and doing like little snippets of tutorials and things on my social channels for a while.
Yeah, I know that your Instagram is definitely very, very active, which is key.
Yes.
What?
It was active before these guys turned up. I couldn't do anything when I wrote the books. I couldn't even do social media. It was intense. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I bet. Well, now you can get back at it, and you clearly have a good following on there. So it's like people have just sort of been waiting, and I think that's good. The breaks from social media. I mean,
it's healthy. Yeah.
It is, because people aren't going to be upset that you're not there every day. I think like everyone realizes it's like take a break, take a vacation, and then they want it more. Like when you come back, they're like that much more excited. So
yeah, I hope so. That'd be nice.
Yeah. So one of the questions that was popping up too: how long into your, I guess, professional life did you until you got the agent? How long was that? Like, did you have one right away, or was it a couple years? Like after Diesel and Reebok, and then you started looking, or that the people responded?
I think it was about, I can work it out now. So yeah, 2 years.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
2 years. Because I wanted to move away from street art. I could have continued there, but communities were changing, and I felt that the scene was changing a lot, and I thought I need to have a little bit of help as well, because I'm still starting out.
Okay.
So that was 2 years.
It's a logical growth step. So I mean, you just, as the teacher appears when the student's ready, kind of thing. It was just, you were just ready. You saw that you were capacity and just like, that's good.
Well, I'd had a few interviews with a few different agents, and I was really lucky at the time. Through MySpace, I ended up making a friend who was really supportive and was a mentor. That's good to mention. And he gave me a lot of support and helped me with getting a really good portfolio, introduced me to the Association of Illustrators, who are like a huge body in the UK.
Yeah.
And I started thinking about an agent then. But at the beginning, it was crazy because I was doing a lot of live stuff, a lot of performance stuff, mural stuff, and I wasn't teaching at the time, but I was exhibiting a lot. So yeah, it was about 2 years.
Okay. That mentor too, all the random podcasts that I listen to with business people, mentors and coaches, I think are like paramount to almost all, because you don't know what you don't know.
So important.
So you have someone that can fill in those gaps and then be like, this is what you need and this will help. So that's interesting. Are you guys still close?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, we're still good friends. Yeah, that relationship isn't the same because that was like 12 years ago, 10 years ago. But I mentor other people now, so I feel like I'm at a position where I'm the other side. So, but I think that was really important, and for me, it was just about. I've always been talking about us about he was always the one that really pushed me when I was growing up. He's the one that bought me all the instructional manuals and all the art books when I was younger, and that's where I learned how to draw. Not in art classes. That's where it was in these books that I learned to draw, and that's why it was really nice for me to give back. And I almost lost him a couple of years ago, and that's why I've dedicated it to him. So because he sees everything I do and all the projects that I do and all the jobs that I get. I'm like, oh, Pops, I got this job. And so I have a lot of support, and that really helps. And I think I have to like talk to people, and the more I think, I've been really lucky because a lot of stuff has come to me, but I think it will if your attitude is open and you're happy and you're in a good place and you're surrounding yourself by the right people and you're active. It's about being active, and it's about being it was really funny because nobody had asked me. I think in the first few years I was doing 40 or 50 interviews a year. It was a lot, like in magazines, podcasts, and so on. And it was only until a Spanish magazine interview, and they said, what have you sacrificed to be where you are? And I thought that's such an interesting question because nobody's asked me that. And I said, I don't think I've sacrificed anything, but that's because I've enjoyed it. But if I was doing the hours that I do for myself, for anyone else, that would have felt a sacrifice, or I would have sacrificed, seeing my friends, going to party, doing all of these things. And I think I was always seen as like the most hardworking artist in my communities. And I quite like that. Yeah. Because, the harder I was working, the better I was getting. And it was everything was a challenge, and I loved the challenge. So yeah.
Good. That's great. So, I guess summing up your career, you basically said it. I would think fearless and active are kind of the two that have helped you get to be where you are. Community.
Yeah, community is huge.
Which is also active.
Yes.
So, The book, I mean, your style, obviously, it's lovely. Clearly, you continue to hone it, but it's very unique. I think I see where a lot of people get inspiration from it. Now, I've definitely seen a lot of artists that have been inspired by this. I don't know. Do you have any last thoughts? I mean, just staying active is kind of what I'm gathering, and I don't get a support system.
Yeah.
Isolated.
And I think there's a support system, but yeah, and not isolating yourself as much. But I think if I had any kind of last pieces of advice, and I've done a lot of work to support that, and my themes are very much about how we present ourselves, but also what our strengths are. And I think even now, if I haven't drawn for a while, it'll take me like 4 attempts to do something. It really will. I think it's really important to kind of demystify or demythify, this idea of, you see people on Instagram and you see them and you see their work so perfect. That takes time, It's like when I used to teach, I used to say it's like, you don't go straight in the boxing ring. You have to pop, you have to spar, and you have to have all those kind of, those cartoon sketches of the writers with like all the like screwed up pieces of paper on the floor that miss the bin because the bin's so high.
Yeah.
All of that exists. You just don't see it.
Right.
And when you're at that stage where the bin's like fully full is where you have to go, right, okay, I can do this. This is what I'm meant to do. I trust in myself, and that's really hard. And I think that's been really important because there's been times where it's really tough and you have to go, this is what I'm going to do. And you have to, and in one word, it's like belief, having that self-belief. I think that would be my last, and just focusing and I think through being active and having the right people around you can help. And they're the people that will tell you, you're amazing, you should do this, this is what you're meant to do. Or keep going, this will come. So that's my last bit of advice, I think. So it's a big one.
That's huge. No, that's got to be 80% of it. Hang out with the positive people, because you don't want the people that are obviously
yeah, totally.
Like, that sucks. You shouldn't submit that to anything. But
exactly.
People are like, go, please. So, well, that's good. Cool. Well, thank you. I appreciate your time.
You're welcome.
This is a lovely book, and I think I wish you obviously the continued best of luck with promoting and sales on this. I will. I'll send you links once I get everything up on my site if you wanna share or just see.
Yeah, of course.
We'll be in touch that way. But I appreciate you taking the time. So continued success to you.
Thank you. Pleasure. Well, have a lovely weekend. It was great talking.
You too. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.